We're back with the latest on the war in Ukraine, where a unilateral Russian ceasefire came into effect earlier this morning.
President Putin announced the 36-hour truce yesterday for Russian Orthodox Christmas, which is celebrated tomorrow. But Ukraine has dismissed the move. NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now with more from Kyiv. Matt, good morning. So how did the ceasefire come about, and why is it that Ukraine rejected it? What's happening now? Is it being observed or no?
Well, it's definitely not being observed. This whole thing was stillborn, and it wasn't so much that Kyiv rejected it. They actually laughed it off. There were jokes about this made by top-level officials on social media. And you asked how this came about. Well, this started when Patriarch Kirill, who's the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, suggested it earlier yesterday. Then Vladimir Putin, as you mentioned, unilaterally ordered it to be imposed on the front lines. Now, there's no evidence that there's any silencing of the guns on the front lines, and that's because of that rejection by Kyiv. But Kyiv had also said, and officials here, that this was just a cynical ploy or even a propaganda campaign by Moscow in order to paint Kyiv once again, and this has been consistent with Vladimir Putin's comments since this war started, as godless heretics who are trying to deny or efface traditional Russian values in their alignment with the West. But folks here on social media and even top officials noted quite rightly that Vladimir Putin and his military seem to have no problem continuing to bombard civilian targets here in Ukraine on Western Christmas, on December 25th, as we would celebrate it in the West, and on New Year's Day. There were continuing attacks then. So this holiday, which was, again, unilaterally announced one day before, and these sorts of truces normally take weeks of negotiations in order to come to realization, that this was just a cynical attempt by Vladimir Putin either to defame Kyiv or just to rearrange his troops by using the silence as a kind of cover for him.
So Ukraine's not going along with it, Matt. How has the White House responded to this move by the Kremlin?
Yeah, well, we heard from the White House. They said that this was something that they also found to be a very shallow offer. Here's what we heard.
I think that there's significant skepticism, both here in the U.S. and around the world right now, given Russia's long track record of propaganda, disinformation, and its relentless attacks against Ukrainian cities and civilians. So, of course, from our perspective, if Russia was truly interested in ceasing the violence and the bloodshed that they have brought to Ukraine's people, they would pull out of Ukraine immediately.
And that's more or less what we heard from President Zelenskyy. If you want a ceasefire, if you want a truce, then leave Ukraine. We even heard from somebody here, I think it was the Ministry of Defense, saying, we won't shoot you in the back if you want your truce. You can leave.
Matt, this all comes as the United States and Germany have announced plans to send armored fighting vehicles to Ukraine. Walk us through what's in this latest weapons package from both countries.
That's right. Those Bradley armored fighting vehicles from the United States, the Mardar fighting vehicles from Germany, and you forgot to mention France the day before. They were also sending their own brand of fighting vehicles. That's something that can really burnish the capabilities of the Ukrainian ground forces before what could become a new offensive by the Russians in this new year. But, you know, there's also the Patriot missiles, another Patriot missile battery system that's coming from Germany. And in addition to all of that, a lot of money, which is, of course, what Ukraine needs very much as well. So this represents a kind of step change in the way that the West has been offering assistance, because these are fighting vehicles. But for anybody, for us, you know, normal people who aren't military wonks, these look and act like tanks. And tanks have always been a barrier in Western provision of aid, because there's always been this fear that they could escalate the conflict by providing heavier and heavier weapons. Now, the fact of the matter is the U.S. and the rest of Europe have been providing extremely heavy, sophisticated weapons for months now. So these barriers, as we're seeing with this offer just yesterday and the day before from France, are just slowly, gradually sort of fading away. Guys.
All right. Matt Bradley from Kyiv for us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.